Hey, and welcome back to Alex Talking. It's a beautiful Sunday morning here in Denver, so I thought, with it being the end of the opening weekend of Steven Spielberg's newest film, Disclosure Day, let's rank his filmography. And only 29 movies. Sorry, you're not going to get Sugarland Express, uh, Duel, The Color Purple, or Empire of the Sun. I really, really want to see Duel. I wanted to see that for as long as I can remember. It's never on anything and hard to find. Hopefully one day I absolutely plan on finishing the filmography. Just once I start ranking these movies, I learned that Spielberg isn't a director that I'm rushing to finish his filmography because the Amistads of the world aren't necessarily my favorite. And not that I am writing off Empire of the Sun by any means or anything like that, but just the reason I haven't rushed to finish a filmography and movies like that, where I have to watch movies like the Rachel McAdams and Noomi Rapace sexual thriller to finish the Brian De Palma filmography was a lot more easy for me to just get through. And the Jamie Lannister drone thriller Domino. So if you're a Brian De Palma fan, those were a few little fun references thrown in for you. I actually just saw Dressed to Kill in theaters 2 nights ago. It's De Palma summer here in Denver. I've seen Carrie, Mission Impossible, and Dressed to Kill. Next week is Body Double, and in July we'll have Snake Eyes, Casualties of War, uh, Body Blow, or Blowout, not Body Blow. Body Blow is a movie I saw at Fantastic Fest last year. But Blowout's my favorite De Palma film, so I'll get to see that, as well as Carlito's Way and Scarface. So it's been a very good De Palma summer. The only other director summer I've experienced at a Alamo Drafthouse was in the summer of 2022 after I graduated high school before I went to college in Loudon, Virginia, which was 2 hours away from my house, but I still would go down every weekend or so for the John Carpenter movie series they would do and see, what did I see? I saw They Live, The Thing, Halloween, and one other one. I remember I saw four, and it was just such a treat. Oh, Christine. How could I forget Christine? But anyways, that's all talk about directors that I like more than Steven Spielberg. Let's get into Steven Spielberg's filmography. At 29, we have Ready Player One. How could it not be Ready Player One? And I mean, I despise the movie at 28, but 29, it has to be one of the worst blockbusters ever made. And I mean that because it's one of the worst blockbusters of the last 10 years in terms of the damage that it brought. It's not like this movie was beloved or the biggest hit in the world, but it was really well liked. You know, people talked about it. You know, your gym teacher rented it. And it was the most any movie had ever up to that point been like, it's okay to be complete derivative nonsense and dog shit slop as long as it has all the old nostalgia you like. So, like, I don't understand how anybody could have watched this at the time and not went, well, Spielberg is entirely cooked. Because not only is it sad that he is the director in charge of harvesting Gremlins versus Mechagodzilla with Batmobiles and shit. I've only ever seen this movie once and just hated it so much. I can't fully, like, I'm sure there's a Batmobile in this. I can't remember if there is, but I'm sure there is. I do remember the Mechagodzilla and Gremlin, and I remember the Shining elevator sequence. What I also remember really standing out, because I think Spielberg really falls into echo chambers, and you can see that reflected in his films throughout periods of time. You can see he is really emphasizing like thoughts and feelings over and over throughout works, and you can see that it's like resonating and like keeps on resonating with him as filmography goes on. And in this era, I think that you can probably pinpoint it in the terminal and on era, maybe even AI and on. I don't, I mean, the Steven Spielberg film Artificial Intelligence, just every semblance of human emotion and actual feeling is played like for stage rather than screen, I guess is how I would describe it. The way Mark Rylance and Simon Pegg emote and talk and how their story is explored in this, I just could never forget how embarrassingly cringy and um, stilted it was, and it had nothing to do with anything other than the writing, the direction, and of course, casting Mark Rylance in that role. I think it's very strange to cast somebody who is so such an artificial actor. I mean, Mark Rylance can't give an authentic, naturalistic performance to save his life, in my opinion. He is the most like classically trained, eloquently spoken over actor of this modern day, and Spielberg just squeezes that juice out of like he loves it. This schmaltzy and hollow artificial Spielberg era is perfectly built for putting the completely like artificial humanity of Mark Rylance into his movies. So that's why he's the completely annoying, fucking awful scientist in this. And that's why he's the BFG. And that's why he's the worst, the worst, the worst best supporting actor win in my lifetime for Bridge of Spies. The worst. I will never get over that because 2015 was such a phenomenal year for supporting actors. Regardless of the fact that like Chris Mannix, Walton Goggins, and The Hateful Eight should have won, because that's my favorite supporting performance in any Tarantino movie, except for maybe Robert Forster as Max Cherry and Jackie Brown. But the fact that he won for Bridge of Spies is insane. So that's my Mark Rylance rant. I really think that dude's a terrible actor. Moving on to 28, The BFG. Fucking hate this movie too. It's just Mark Rylance is a big fucking giant. Number 27, Lincoln. This is, in my opinion, my least favorite of Spielberg's, historical formulaic Oscar bait movies, just because it is the one that is to the T exactly what it says on the tin. And in that way, I would argue, it accomplishes exactly what it wants to. And in that way, it does so in a more direct and efficient manner than something like Amistad. But Amistad is a more original movie to me. I found it to be more compelling throughout. I found the actual story it explored to be more engaging and moving. So, for the fact that these are both historical movies that I wouldn't watch again, and a little slew here of historical movies I wouldn't watch again, Lincoln is just the one that was the most exactly what I expected it to be. Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing as Abe, and, Old Mary Todd is really good here too, but no, I'm not ever going to rewatch Lincoln. Coming in at 26, Amistad. Amistad is good because of the ocean sequences. I don't know why I said sequence. My sentence just stopped there. Amistad's good because of the ocean sequences. I love water. It just goes on for too long. Obviously, it still had a story to finish, but it really felt like a slog towards the end. Digimon Hunsu, completely forgive me if I butchered that name, I'm sure. But if you're a film fan, you know who I'm talking about. Great, great actor. And I don't know if this was the earliest of his movies I've seen him in, but he's extremely young in this. And there's a sequence in this movie. Forgive me, it's been a very, this was a high school AP English extra credit movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but there's a sequence in it where he jumps off the boat and the camera's bobbing up and down in the water, and he's seeing the arms of people reaching out for him, and he thinks it's his people saving him, and then it's really his captors bringing him back onto a boat. If I'm remembering that sequence correctly, I remember that being an extremely profoundly well done and visually striking sequence. There's not much of Amistad, admittedly, that I remember liking in a compelling way very fondly, but I thought that was a very well done sequence. Coming in at 25, War Horse. So, I give Warhorse the edge out of these three Spielberg historical period war movies because it has the best gimmick. It's a war horse. And if I say Lincoln does what it says on the tin the best, I'd say this one does the most with what it says on the tin. This one is a boring as shit movie I would never want to watch again, but it at least is a war horse movie that is a solid war horse movie. I have no idea how Spielberg got to a point where he thought he had to be making shit like this, except for the fact that, you know, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out and did really bad. So I gotta go and try to win an Oscar, and he was so miscalibrated at that point he thought something like fucking War Horse would do so. Coming in at 24, Hook. Hook is fine. Hook is a good time whenever I was in high school. Watched it in art class with my buddy Eli. Thought Dustin Hoffman was really fun as Captain Hook, and I just wish that Robin Williams was allowed to have more fun as Peter Pan. I remember thinking that this was really a strange movie. I give this a 2.5 to give you context of where we still are on this ranking, and we still have quite a bit more 2.5s to go until we get higher. I'll tell you when. I don't have that much to say about Hook. It is has really good set design once they get to Neverland. Coming in at 23, The Fabelmans. I hope that this isn't too controversial. Spielberg's in this run recently, just to give context of what I thought of like his career, and I did so in my Disclosure Day review as well, if you want to watch that, is I think that you can really break down, at least in my opinion, his career into eras more than most directors. And in this most recent era, based off of decades, in the 2020s, he has 3 movies. Throughout the 2010s, I was disappointed by most everything he made. I liked the movies that are going to be higher on this list. I liked, throughout the only things higher on this list that came out in the decade of the 2010s are Bridge of Spies, which I don't really like. It's not that much higher. And then the 2 movies that I think are good in the 2010s are The Post and The Adventures of Tintin. So that's giving context for where I am with Spielberg in the 2020s. And to say that him making a movie that I don't think is good is not that much of a surprise to me. But West Side Story blew me the fuck away. It's not coming up anytime soon, I can tell you that. So West Side Story got all my faith back in him, especially on a visual level. I know that it's because of Jan Kaminski, who I have had a very off and on relationship with in my career watching Spielberg movies, because of how he chooses to light stuff and sometimes overlight stuff. But I think Jan is doing the best work that he's done consistently in his career. And between the 2020s films he's done, West Side Story, one of the best visual Spielberg movies by far, The Fabelmans, and Disclosure Day, he's on an insane run. Because as much as I didn't like The Fabelmans that much, it's all on a story and script level that I wish I could relate to as a filmmaker and someone that wants to make films, but it's just so secularly Spielberg that it felt just like at arm's length for me. I didn't find anything it actually explored in this movie to be all that interesting, and I thought a lot of the writing verbally, the language that came out of their mouth, and the acting was just not necessarily my thing. Admittedly, I did not connect to any of this, and just really walked out of it feeling very disconnected and disappointed. It was a very crushing, disappointing movie, and one of the very first movies I ever saw with my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but one of the very first movies I ever saw with my wife in a theater, and that was a good time. We got an advanced screening of it whenever we were in college in Savannah, and everyone was just so excited. And then I remember we all kind of walked out, and it took until we finally walked and dropped her off at her apartment, and then me and my friends started walking home, and we all finally were like, yeah, I really didn't care for that. And then everyone was just like, no, I didn't like it at all. So maybe that also colored it as well. I didn't really like it, and then I was with a safe space of people that were all like, no, I didn't think it was good either. just sometimes self-indulgence doesn't work for me. Sometimes it can be moving, sometimes it's not, and this wasn't at all. The David Lynch John Ford scene is, though, and every time I take a photo or make a film and have to frame something, I always think of the if the horizon's in the middle, it's shit scene. So I think it's so amazing that as much as this movie can be a complete disconnected 2.5 hour slog for me, that the goal of trying to articulate the advice an amazing filmmaker gave you and put that in film and immortalize it was perfectly captured by Spielberg in this. Coming in at 22, just a hair above The Fabelmans, Disclosure Day, the newest Spielberg movie. Yes, and this one disappointed me just a little bit more than The Fabelmans, because The Fabelmans isn't a technically bad movie so much so as I thought it was overwrought and emotionally hollow. Disclosure Day, I think, is a bad movie. The more I sit with it, I think it's a bad movie. And I think this will really, really, really be looked at in time to come as a devastatingly bad movie and disaster and disappointment. I don't think in 5 years anyone will look back on this fondly. And I don't make big claims like that to be, contrarian or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I want to say right now, if you like this movie, I'm glad. And don't ever let, especially what I say or what anyone says, affect what you think about a movie. Everyone watching this should know that. We're all just taught, I watch YouTube videos just because I like hearing people talk about movies. And I would hope that you're watching this because of the same. So that's why it's okay that I can say, I think that every type of emotion this is trying to play on is false. I think that every single nuance of Emily Blunt's performance rings hollow, and Josh O'Connor is an amazing actor, one of the best in the amazing field of young actors that we have working today. He is one of the standouts. His character is a, action piece to be moved around like a guy on a chessboard. He's not an actual character. His girlfriend, even less so, and somehow gives an even more hollow cardboard cutout performance and more empty, lifeless performance in her eyes. It felt so lifeless. It felt so devoid of any actual energy, any actual point, any actual thought. It is Unk on a soapbox trying to tell us to fucking listen, and I'm sorry, but, I'm not going to fucking say that that's profound whenever, one, a billion other movies have tried to say the same message, and two, if you're going to do so by having it be that the government's trying to keep us fucking secrets from aliens, try to say a little bit more of a profound message and have a little bit more to do than the mid-credit sequence of Michael Bay's Transformers. Spielberg, you produced that. Where Ron and Diane Witwicky are like, if there were aliens, the government would tell us. They would want us to know. That's like this. Like, you could just take that scene and be like, that's what Disclosure Day is. That's what Spielberg's trying to say. They're trying to keep something from us. Like, no fucking shit. It is old head slop. Coleman Domingo is one of the best actors in the field today, and we have him talking on a phone or a headset the entire time. Colin Firth leads a astronomically lame group of just generic military villains that at the very end of the movie just sit down. They all walk out of the room, and he watches as the third act happens because they're done. It's decided they're done. This was a horrid script from David Koepp in his 5th collaboration with Spielberg. Said it went through 42 drafts, and I think that must be why it comes out feeling like a hollow sci-fi pastiche of just every different sci-fi grab bag idea. Like, put a crop circle in it, put a little green guy in it, put all this stupid bullshit in it, and on top of that, like, have all the emotional, like, big revelation sequence be hampered down by CGI animals. He has no sauce anymore. It is so sad. Ugh. The most disappointing movie of the year, because every time I think about it, I just think, I don't think I can ever actually truly let myself get excited. As much as I love West Side Story, I'm like, no, if they say he's making another Alien movie, I'm just going to think it's going to fucking suck again, because Disclosure Day was proof that Unks lost it in the modern day. Especially whenever it comes to making blockbusters. I mean, this was truly, in my book, this was my Kingdom of the Crystal Skull experience. I was 4 when that movie came out. My dad got me the cereals and the spoon. I love Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I have nothing but love and nostalgia for it. This movie is the one that came out when I was 22. This is the one that I was excited for. And this is the one that was just devastatingly disappointing to realize that your guy doesn't have it anymore and you don't think you can ever get it back, because if you can make something this bad and this rot, you're cooked. 21, Bridge of Spies. It is a boring ass political movie with a solid Tom Hanks performance, and once again, just, I always think of this movie for having such an egregiously bad Best Supporting Actor winner with Mark Rylance, who's just a bad actor, and then to give him an Oscar for a movie like this, it's insane. You know, Sicario came out in 2015. The Revenant came out in 2015. Like, Tom Hardy in The Revenant was actually nominated. I'm talking about, like, Sicario, where I would give it to Benicio del Toro, or Hateful Eight, where I'd give it to Walton Goggins, which are performances that obviously stand the test of time way more than this. We're talking about Sylvester Stallone and Creed, and they all lost to Mark Rylance in the film Bridge of Spies. Coming in at 20, AI, Artificial Intelligence. This is the first 3-star on the list. I would not watch this again, though, especially in the modern world we live in, but I remember having a good time whenever I was a younger teen with this because of Chris Rock, and thinking that Jude Law was giving a really fun performance, because at the time I only knew him for Sherlock Holmes. Coming in at 19, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. I haven't seen this movie definitely since I was a young teen. I grew up watching it on VHS, actually, is how I've seen this movie by far the most times in my life. I don't have this on DVD. Actually, I can come right out and say, like, that's how much I don't really watch The Lost World. I've only ever seen it on VHS or caught it on TV. I've never watched it on DVD. So it is... it's solid because Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore are in it, and because they thought Jeff Goldblum was going to be a leading man in the 90s for a minute. And as a Pittsburgher, I have to say that makes this movie have a little bit more fun for me. I understand anybody who thinks it's just a completely hollow, boring Jurassic Park movie that is a derivative repeat of the first one and doesn't really do anything new or interesting until the third act. But that third act also makes it completely watchable, fun, and worth it to me. Dinosaurs in San Diego is awesome. Coming in at 18, and I also just want to say the end of The Lost World Jurassic Park is one of those things where it's like they actually fulfill the idea of dinosaurs in the real world better than any of the Jurassic World movies ever did, even though that was the whole promise of the end of the second one and the entire premise of the third one. The most satisfying dinosaurs in the real world Jurassic content we've ever gotten is still from Spielberg for The Lost World. Coming in at 18, okay, now we're at good movies. Now we're at actual real good movies. I'd give these all 4 stars and higher. Fucking finally. Okay, it took 11 bad to mediocre movies for me to finally say, okay, you know what? Steven Spielberg is a great director. Steven Spielberg is a fantastic fucking director. And the worst of his great movies, which is a movie I'd still give 4 stars, is The Post. The Post is great. I'm a journalist. I have a degree in journalism from Penn State, and I just think that journalism cinema is one of the most underrated genres, and I love movies about the industry. Spotlight's probably my favorite, but The Post came 2 years after that, and was obviously Spielberg's riff on that, as well as All of the President's Men, and I think it's just a fantastic version of that. A great two-hander with All the President's Men, and it was really, really good to see Spielberg work with Meryl. You know, Meryl's fantastic in this. And the Run It sequence, fantastic work. Great, great stuff in this movie. 17, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I just said about how much I like this movie. Once again, I grew up with this. Um, as I watch as I get older, it is the type of movie I grew up with that I can watch and go, holy shit. I can't imagine how I would have reacted if I was like 30 and grew up with Indiana Jones and then I went and saw the new one and it was this. But as someone who grew up with it, as someone who grew up with the Transformers movies as like my Star Wars and loving Sam Witwicky, I always really enjoyed Shia LaBeouf in this as Mutt. And this one brings back Marion, which is the biggest mistake of the entire Indiana Jones franchise, is not having her be in all of them. I understand that they wanted to be like Indiana Jones, James Bond, get a new girl every movie, but I love Marion. Bringing her back in this was the right decision, and in a lot of ways, this is shockingly, I never wanted this to be the truth, but a much better ending than The Dial of Destiny. Number 16, Munich. Munich is super underrated. This is back in the early 2000s, so just a few years after stuff like, Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List, so he was able to still make really good Oscar bait war humanist movies. And this was a really tense thriller about, some terror attacks that happened in Munich at the Olympics. And if you don't know the story, I think that this movie is totally worth watching. I did not know the story at the time, and it makes a really good two-hander with this movie called September 5 that came out a few years ago. Just about, talk about a good journalism movie, September 5, but just about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes of trying to figure out situations like this. Munich does a great job with, as well as having a fantastic young Daniel Craig performance. Yeah, good movie. Seen it twice. It's one that I don't have The Lost World on DVD, but I have Munich on DVD, and it's a really good movie. Number 15, The Adventures of Tintin. I wish that this was something that if Spielberg really wanted to lean into doing action movies with CGI, because I really think that Spielberg is an example of a director that just can't use CGI very well, that he should have done movies like this instead. Because Tintin looks visually stunning, like visually amazing, and it's such a fun time. It is like the animated version of Dick Tracy, in that it just is a full love letter to what it's trying to be, and so niche to what it's trying to be, and only accessible really to those that would like that sort of thing, and those that do fucking love it. And that's why Tintin has such a rabid fan base. Number 14, and this feels so weird to say, but I'm just going to say it, Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, we're at like masterpiece territory now. Yeah, now I can stop slandering Spielberg. I'm only going to have near flawless things to say about every movie from here on up. Saving Private Ryan has a young Vin Diesel, and if you know me, I love my guy, the Vin Fin, as well as Matt Damon, and really, this just came out around the same time as Thin Red Line, and I think about how, those are the two defining war movies, in my opinion, probably, and the fact that they came out like within a year of each other is just absurd. And they're in a lot of ways aesthetically very similar. Thin Red Line is my favorite war movie, but this is such a profound movie capturing the idea of the importance of trying to save anyone you can. And the ending is just so profound and powerful that this is an undeniable movie because of that ending. Anybody, whoever served or was in the military, I'm sure, was profoundly moved by that ending. My father told me a story of seeing this in the cinemas back whenever it came out, and that as the lights came on at the end, all the guys that he noticed how many guys were in military hats as he came in, and he said it was sold out, and the lights came on and just everyone was crying. All the military guys were just crying. That it was one of the most profound film experiences he's ever had, and I can only imagine. I love that story when he told me that whenever we first watched this. But yeah, absolutely amazing film. This and Schindler's List I always think of as the two-hander of his best Oscar movies, in terms of just pure mature Spielberg handling everything correctly, every emotional beat is played correctly, and it's all done seriously. This and Schindler's List are his masterpieces, in my opinion. E.T., number 13. I hate that. This is like doing a John Carpenter ranking now. John Carpenter doesn't have as many shitty movies at the bottom, but damn, E.T. at 13? Are you fucking kidding me, Alex? Like, what the fuck? E.T.'s great. This is a movie that absolutely holds up to me. It's one that's funny to hear people my generation talk about, and then they'll be like, it's like so dog shit, and I just beat E.T. with hammers. No, it played amazing to me whenever I watched it, and always has, and hope always will. I absolutely think that this movie is a beautiful story of discovery, friendship, and whimsy, and the effects and all that stuff. And a movie like this hold up to me way better than the effects in something like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, they always will. Dated stuff in a movie like E.T. can always be forgiven whenever you got an actual little E.T. running around. Number 12, Schindler's List. I know, it is so weird to have Saving Private Ryan, E.T., Schindler's List all sandwiched here, especially when you see what I have at 11. But Schindler's List is just, it is what everything I said about Saving Private Ryan, but genuinely flawlessly done. Not a movie I would ever want to rewatch. One day I'm sure I will. I have a beautiful 4K of it that I got at a pawn shop one time whenever I was in high school. So that's the only time I've ever seen it. Gosh, what a brutal watch. I'm thinking of, if you're looking at my face right now, just looking off in the distance, I'm thinking of Ray Fiennes on the top of the building with the sniper rifle. It's just a harrowing watch. But I'm a huge Liam Neeson fan. I think it's great that Spielberg works with so many actors throughout his career. Obviously, there's so many films. How could he not? But there's so many different actors that I've loved that he's worked with. And I wish he worked with Neeson again, because Oscar Schindler is, a once-in-a-lifetime performance, and the type of thing that I think Liam Neeson kind of emptied the tank back in 1993, and he gives amazing performance after amazing performance since, but he hasn't ever done anything on the level of Schindler's List again, and how could you blame him, because that takes it all out of you. Number 11, The Terminal. I know, it's a personal ranking. Give me shit in the comments, or just give me your ranking. That's much more what I'd rather see, and if it's completely different than mine, I'll do nothing but celebrate that. Because I just love that everyone can get different things out of watching movies, and personally, I've seen Schindler's List once. I've seen Saving Private Ryan once. I've seen The Terminal countless times. I think that this is such a heartwarming movie, and that Tom Hanks is giving a great performance here. It's hard to give a good performance doing a silly foreign accent, let alone a foreign accent as an actor that you know their American accent so well. But he's giving a great performance here. Diego Luna, Zoe Saldana, very young. I love their love story in this. It's so cute. I just think this is such a great example of a movie being a gimmick movie. It's about one thing, but at the same time, this movie is about finding the goodness in humanity and just making the most out of a situation. It's that simply. It's that message, while also being a guy stuck in an airport is the gimmick of the movie. That is the best of Spielberg, when it's something that can be simplified while also being just a heightened concept movie. It's like both at the same time. That's what this is, and really, really, I think this is such a fun movie. I call movies about humans being humans genes movies, and this is more of a suit movie. He wears like a suit the whole time, but this is a total genes movie. This is a human being human movie, what makes us who we are, and I found it very, very powerful. Number 10, Catch Me If You Can. We're in classic territory now. These top 10 are all 5-star favorites. Catch Me If You Can, one of young DiCaprio's best performances, and honestly, I think his name's Hanratty in this. Tom Hanks is super funny in this movie as well. This is one of the better Tom Hanks Spielberg movies, and my favorite Tom Hanks Spielberg collaboration. This is the highest any of them come. I just think this is so fun. All the chicks in this are great too. You got young Amy Adams, Jennifer Garner. It's one of those movies that is Spielberg making a wholly unique movie, where the DiCaprio character is so unique and such a fun protagonist to follow throughout a film like this. just like an unlikable protagonist that you want to keep getting away, if you will. Um, it's a lot of fun. Very fun movie and has a solid heart at the core of it as well. Number 9, easily, easily, easily Spielberg's best film since 2 years after I was born. West Side Story. West Side Story is his best movie of the past 20 years by a wide margin. There are 6 spots in between this and the next closest one in the past 20 years, and that's Tintin. West Side Story visually is so magnetic. The lighting, the way the camera moves, the way it captures the dancing, all the sequences, moving through the puddles, reflections, everything is amazing. Rachel Zegler is so good in this that it gave her a career that she was just not ready for in this internet world. I feel like it is so unfair, the like reputation that girl has, because she's just someone my age and on the internet, but gave an amazing performance in a Steven Spielberg movie at 19. So she got put on the internet at a very young age in a very big eye, and said a lot of things wrong, and now it feels like, we're 6 years later, she hasn't done a good movie since. I have no idea if she's ever going to, but I really think that her performance in this movie speaks for itself and is proof that she's an amazing actress. And the same can be said about Ariana DeBose. She hasn't given a good performance or done anything good since, but she's amazing in this as well. I just wish anyone but Ansel Elgort was the lead. I really do. Mike Faist. Why wasn't Mike Faist the lead? He's incredible. He could have won Best Supporting Actor in my book. Mike Faist is so good in this. I was so excited whenever he was in Challengers then, because I absolutely loved him from this. But then Challengers was the first time I ever saw Josh O'Connor. Now Spielberg's playing with him. He's got all the Challengers boys. Just a fun little connection there between this and Disclosure Day. But yeah, I think West Side Story is easily his crowning achievement of the last 20 years. Number 8, Minority Report. This is such a good action movie. I can't imagine how fun this would have been to see back in summer of 2002. Tom Cruise, Spielberg. Oh, it's a completely unique premise based off a Philip K. Dick story. Like, oh, that's just so cool, and it delivers on that in every way. I wish I was around back when this came out more than anything to know if I would have hated the cinematography as much as I always did growing up. I've come to just slightly soften on how much I think that the cinematography ruined this movie. But as a kid, I used to watch this movie all the time. Like literally as like a 9 and 10-year-old, I had a DVD of it just because I love Tom Cruise. And I would just get so annoyed because I thought the DVD was messed up because of how weird it looked. But no, it's just the way the lighting is. It drives me nuts. It just is such a weird decision to have this movie look the way it does. But now I think it's funny and unique. I can handle it because I'm an adult now, not a dumb kid that thinks my DVD is broken. Colin Farrell and Tom Hanks are great in this. They play off each other great. And I think, or Tom Cruise. I said Tom Hanks, holy shit. Tom Cruise is my favorite actor of all time. I said Tom Hanks. Steven Spielberg wouldn't be happy with me at least. But Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell play off each other very well in this. And I think it's cool to see Cruise playing like like a druggie almost, like trying to get a fix at the beginning and, strung out and all that stuff. Because you don't see him do that often. And, yeah, really like Minority Report. But my personal favorite Tom Cruise Spielberg movie is number 7, War of the Worlds. This is the best Spielberg movie to come out in my lifetime. And I just think that this is such a great adaptation of that source material. I love the original book. My grandfather gave it to me at a very young age. And I think that this movie is fucking great. I'd seen the movie, actually, before he had given me the book. That's why he gave me the book, because I was like, whoa, War of the Worlds, that's a Tom Cruise movie. But, no, I just think that this actually succeeds in 20 years ago telling the sci-fi story of aliens coming and people just tearing each other apart and running in the opposite direction and not knowing how to react to it and to come together rather than coming apart. Way better than Disclosure Day did. Obviously different themes are being explored, but this is just such a better sci-fi movie and the last great Spielberg sci-fi movie. I think that Cruise is fantastic as the dad in over his head trying to handle this insane situation with two kids. And I really, really like the Tim Robbins sequence where he is estranged from his son. He's only got his daughter with him, and they're stuck in that farmhouse, and it's really tense, really well done. Cruise is fantastic in this movie. Number 6, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. One of the original classic, like, what could you have thought when this came out? Like, sci-fi was forever changed. I mean, people have been parodying and referencing this movie ever since it came out. Monsters vs. Aliens does it best. I just think that Richard Dreyfuss is an amazing lead for this. I love that Spielberg brought him back from Jaws, and I once saw this movie projected onto the side of Devil's Tower in Wyoming, which is where the third act takes place, obviously, and that was just one of the coolest experiences of my life. So absolutely love this movie, and I think that if you watch this and Disclosure Day back to back, you'll very much so see how it's just a hollow 2026 watered down, lame version of this. Watch the classics. Number 5, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park and Close Encounters are like this, by the way. Like, there's not even any room in my fingers between them. There's like 5 and 6 are pretty much tied. And then 1 through 4 are pretty much tied. But number 5 is going to be Jurassic Park, just because this is the one that I've carried with me for longer in my life. I even saw this back in 3D in 2013 whenever it came out. And my dad took me. That was an awesome time back whenever I was like 9 or 10. And yeah, just a classic from a young age, just like everybody else has experienced. There is nothing wrong with this movie. It is a near flawless action movie. That is what makes Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, and Jurassic Park so fun. It is the most popular and most famous director of all time, making the most accessible and entertaining movies of all time in the most flawless and polished way possible. The effects, the pacing, the storytelling, the acting, the visuals, the lighting, everything is 5 stars and everything is top notch. The dinosaurs are amazing. Newman is my favorite character in the movie. And I have to say my favorite part of this movie is probably Newman's kill, because that used to really disturb me as a kid. And now even as an adult, I'm like, that's a really great horror sequence put into this. Very, very much so accessible kids family action movie. But like, the horror sequences still do play well. It's not like Jaws, where I could actually see just a complete argument that it's a horror movie. Jurassic Park is a kid's family movie, but it just does such a good job with the action and horror that I can't help but think that it's flawless in every way. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like I said, 1 through 4 are pretty much tied. Indiana Jones is my favorite movie character of all time, and the original trilogy is without flaw. My least favorite is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at a mere 5 out of 5 stars. His relationship with his dad in this is the best part. The sequence in Germany with the signing of the book and the blimp are so memorable, as well as the, entire third act with "You Have Chosen Wisely" and riding off into the sunset. Just such a satisfying ending. Indiana Jones has 3 endings, and any of them are good to choose from to a degree. But if you really do want to just be the best cinematic ending, it's the best ending to any trilogy ever. It's them riding off in the sunset. Him with his father. He did it. Amended his relationship. He let it go. He realized what was important. Flawless. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know that might be a little controversial, but it's kind of like if you did a, ranking of Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, a 31 on 31, if you will. I'm always going to have Nightmare on Elm Street at 3, and that's always going to feel weird, but that's just the truth. That's kind of how a Spielberg ranking is always going to be. Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be 3, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it is in my top 20 movies of all time. So it is such a endlessly rewatchable movie. There's always something new to glean out of this. It is just firing on all cylinders, and for it being a first-time effort with this character and this story and the setting, it is the greatest adventure. Just absolutely flawless accomplishment of what you're trying to do and exceeding it in every single way possible. Had to turn out better than you ever could have imagined, like type shit. Like just absolutely the best version of what it could have been. Number 2, Jaws. Jaws is awesome, and I just read it for the first time while I was on my honeymoon. I read the book Jaws in 3 days, and I thought that it was really weird to see a version of that where like Brody's wife has an affair with Hooper and different people die, and it was about the mayor having like ties with the mob. But anyways, the actual movie Jaws to me is now the greatest book to screen adaptation ever, because it is like the perfect example of how to make something perfect out of something good. The book Jaws is good. The movie Jaws is perfect. If they made the book Jaws directly into a movie, it would have been good. They made it the way they did, and it's perfect. And I just think that somehow is going to give me something even more to get out of Jaws every time I rewatch it, because every time you watch Jaws, you see something more and more flawless about it. You see how, like, in my opinion, something that will always stick with me, one of the earliest things I've heard of film criticism that, like, I, like, will always disagree with, but is something that, since being on the internet, I've seen every now and then regurgitated. Watching this movie as a kid, my sister was like, that shark looks so fake. No, it fucking doesn't. Like, no, it fucking doesn't. So, that's just something that stands up and holds up so well to me every time I watch it. And the end, the kill of Hooper, or Quint, is so visceral every time you watch it that you just think, every time, how is this PG? And the lines, like, this movie is so quotable, just endlessly quotable. But even down to stuff like them having the scene where they're all going over each other's scars is like as iconic as you're going to need a bigger boat, or why don't you come down here and try shoveling some of this shit for a while? You know what I mean? Like, I just cannot get enough of Jaws. So how's it not number 1? Because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom has been a movie that has stayed with me ever since the very, very first time I saw it on VHS as a kid. And Mola Ran pulled the heart out of that guy. And I was like, well, I'm going to faint. I've never been the same. Movies have never been the same. And it was the coolest shit I've ever seen. Still is the coolest shit I've ever seen. Every time I watch this movie, I think, if Raiders and Jaws exist to make you go, look at how flawless this is executed. Look how great this is paced. Look at how cool this action is. This one is just, look how cool this action is. Look how cool this is. Look how cool this is the entire time. The opening is awesome. Him in the white tuxedo, amazing. You know, I just think that it's the fun one. And the fact that it's always considered the worst one is not something that confuses me so much so as it's just something I disagree with. You know, and I think that's something that is fun in movies, where it's like, it's not something that I'm like offended that people put it last, because I do understand it. It's not a situation where I'm like, no, I don't understand how anyone would put this below Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like, no, completely understand it. I completely understand putting it below The Last Crusade. It's just, which one have I returned to the most in my life? Infinitely more than any other one is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because it's one of the movies in my life that I've returned to infinitely more than any other one, and that is why it is my favorite Steven Spielberg movie. And just to put it quite simply, it's so far and away my favorite Steven Spielberg movie, I don't have to question it for a second, and I couldn't even think about putting Jaws at first. Like, it is just Temple of Doom. So, my favorite Spielberg is Temple of Doom. I hope your favorite Spielberg is Munich, because that would be really fun. Let me know in the comments what you saw this weekend, what movie has been making you happy, and what you're looking forward to. Thank you so much for watching. Give me any recommendations for videos you'd like to see in the future, because I love doing lists like this. This is a completely random thing that I just felt like doing when I woke up this morning, you know? I was like, fuck it, I've seen 29 Spielberg movies. I wonder if anyone else is going to do this video. I'll do it. Hopefully Sean Chandler does it too. I'd like to watch that at least.